Life could be a dream, life could be a dream. Do 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 shaboom. Life could be a dream if I could take you up in paradise up above. If you would tell me I'm the only one that you love, life could be a dream. Sweetheart, hello, hello again. Shaboom and open, we'll meet again. Boom, ding dong, ding dong, a lang, a lang, a lang. Oh, 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 bip, a bip, a do, a dip. Oh, life could be a dream. If only all my precious plans would come true. If you would let me spend my whole life loving you, life could be a dream, sweetheart.
Hey Ira. Oh, it's great to see you too, yeah. I'm really looking forward to seeing you later. So, do you want me to just come by Res Life? We can go from there? Cool, sounds good. See you then. Bye.
Oh, life could be a dream. Shaboom, if I could take you up in paradise up above. Shaboom, tell me, darling.
So for this assignment, I actually decided to interview Ira. She's one of my friends, first of all, but she actually graduated from Concordia University with a degree in marketing, which is what I'm hoping to pursue. And when we talked, I actually learned a lot about what it meant to be a professional in the marketing world, as well as kind of how marketing plays an everyday role in her life. Ira was super awesome to interview. She's an area director here at Concordia, so I actually do see her around campus a lot, so finding a time that works for both of us was kind of difficult because my schedule was super busy as well as her schedule. Other than that, it was super awesome to talk with her. She told me a lot about kind of what her college experience was and gave me some like tips and tricks on how to get the most out of my business classes and my professors and my faculty and peers and staff. She gave me a bunch of cool insight. One thing I did learn about my initiative while doing this project is that I really do have to be on top of it, and I have to be looking ahead, and especially because Ira and I are both really busy people, just getting on her calendar was kind of difficult, I thought at first. I just had to book a few weeks out in advance and just kind of remind her when I saw her in the hall. But it eventually got done, and she was a great sport about it. It was, the only thing that was a little interesting is that we were friends originally to start, so switching to like a more professional interview setting was a little difficult. Sometimes we would get a little bit off topic talking about like personal life or like how each of us are doing personally, and I kind of had to like circle back and kind of get back on topic just because Ira and I are super close and we do enjoy each other's company, but the purpose of that meeting was to gain a deeper understanding about kind of a day in her life, what it means to be a marketing graduate, and kind of how she uses that in her day-to-day life. But I did learn that it was really important for me to take initiative. The interview would not even be done if I hadn't taken initiative, and she was very professional in the interview itself. I was just more prone to getting off topic, and I kind of just had to remind myself that we're in a professional setting and kind of just circle back. I talked a lot generally about kind of how we answer the question, oh, what are you going to do with your degree after you graduate? Because for a marketing student, before this, I was actually really confused on how I'm supposed to answer. Marketing is just such a broad term, and kind of pinpointing exactly where I wanted to take that was kind of difficult up until I talked to Ira, which was just super fulfilling, validating, educational, and everything like that. During our interview, actually, Ira and I talked a lot about event planning, which is something that I did not realize I had been doing for such a long time. But actually, now looking back, it kind of all connects and all makes sense. So Ira basically uses her marketing degree to focus on event planning. As an area director, she is in charge of all the RAs here on campus and in charge of all of all of the events that the RAs plan. She's also in charge of some of her own events, so that's one thing to keep in mind. I signed up for like a lot of things this year. I tried to get really involved this year, and some of the things I did to do that is I signed up to be a Hall Cup coordinator, and for that it's basically just a job where I plan events. I planned the Hall Cup for to happen 3 times in the semester. So that was kind of something that, as soon as she said event planning was a type of marketing, it kind of just clicked in my head. I'm also part of OSL, so that means specifically I'm in charge of service corps. And what service corps do is they go to different elementary schools around Portland, and we're in charge of their after-school programs. So I actually do get to practice more event planning that way. I help with lesson planning. I help with just controlling the kids and making sure they're behaving correctly. I help with just creating a space where the college volunteers and then students can kind of just like learn from each other and just have fun. So I guess after our discussion about that, event planning seemed much more reasonable to me. It seemed like I could potentially make a career out of it, but it definitely gave me a direction to take my marketing degree towards. I also talked to her about potentially getting a concentration in finance. We talked a little bit during our interview about some of the professors on campus, some of the professors we had in common, some of her favorite professors, and essentially I'm just considering adding a finance concentration. I just think this will help me down the road, and I think it will kind of highlight that I can understand numbers and I can understand how a business operates, but from a financial standpoint, which is super beneficial, I believe. Another thing Ira and I kind of bonded over was the fact that we both came to Concordia already knowing kind of what we wanted to do and what kind of career we wanted to pursue. Ira had been declared a marketing major basically all 4 years, and that's kind of what I'm aiming to do. A lot of what I was considering doing before marketing kind of got ruled out in my high school years. So originally I had wanted to be a physical therapist. I'm super passionate about sports and just wanted to be like a trainer. I wanted to have a people person job, so I thought physical therapy might be the path for me to take. After that, it kind of transitioned towards sales and merchandising and fashion merchandising, specifically kind of going off the physical therapy and sports category. I wanted to be able to sell athletic clothes or athleisure wear, and basically I had an informational interview with someone over at Microsoft who was one of my dad's coworkers, and she basically kind of advised me to stray away from the sales merchandising occupation because it is typically a lower paying job. After that, I kind of expanded my choices and kind of chose marketing because it's a very broad field. There's lots of components that make up a company's marketing, so that includes advertising, branding, event planning, and a bunch of other things. And basically after choosing marketing, everything kind of felt like it was right. And coming to Concordia, I've been able to pursue that, and especially this year, involving myself more on campus and just giving myself more options and more availability to meet new people and to kind of just like continue my passions of event planning and also being the extrovert I am. I always like to meet new people, so that's just a great way for me to do that. So Ira and I actually in high school both participated in an extracurricular called DECA, which is kind of like a business setting club. So you basically sign up for a category, so for example hospitality and tourism, and then you'd go to this DECA competition and you would compete against other business students, entrepreneurs and things like that, and you would compete by making a business plan in a certain amount of time, pitching your business plan in a certain amount of time. You would have to do like work out your full process on how you're creating a product, marketing it, launching it, advertising for it, and such. But we actually talked about DECA, our experiences with that, kind of how we got into the path that we're at now. So for example, Ira said that when she was younger, her and her siblings had a lemonade stand, and they fully branded it, gave it a name, gave it a logo, and they created their product, sold it on the streets, and eventually it kind of grew into a bigger business. So Ira kind of paid homage to that by saying that's kind of how she got her start as a marketing professional. But it was just something like really fun to bond over, because who doesn't have a lemonade stand when they're younger? I also had the chance to share with Ira kind of about my summer and about the internship I did. So, in case you don't know, this summer I actually completed my internship for my business degree. It was a telecommuting internship, actually based up in Seattle. They're a nonprofit called the Borgen Project, and essentially they are an entity working towards ending world hunger and poverty, and they do that through advocacy, basically, with your congressional leaders and through just involvement in the community. Basically what I did for that is I was a PR marketing intern, meaning I was kind of in charge of their social media. I was in charge of reaching out to radio stations, newspapers, any type of media, and trying to get infographics posted, trying to get ads run, trying to get radio station ads run as well. And it was just a great experience for me, I think. I learned a lot about what it meant to work in that type of environment. I learned how to be more professional in the way I connect with my boss, my other coworkers, and I also learned a lot about time management in that, because since it was telecommuting, I definitely had to plan out when I did my work, and I wanted it to be on time, so I had to plan out my time a week in advance to get the assignments done in time, essentially. And also I had to keep in account that my boss was actually located in Germany, so the time difference was definitely difficult for us to plan meetings around. But other than that, it was a great experience. So some of the things I had to do as part of my internship is I held a focus group. I had to get 3 of my ads or flyers or infographics published in either like a newspaper, on a radio TV station, on the TV, or just for me, for example, I actually just posted my infographics around campus and got kind of participation that way. I also had to launch a 1 mile campaign, which kind of just focuses on 1 mile, within a radius of 1 mile, and you kind of just put flyers up in that area. I wrote chalk on the ground, and it kind of just brought more people to the Borgen Project and to the Borgen Project website. It was really difficult sometimes to complete my internship, because it was hard to see the end product, because they're a nonprofit, and you can't always tell who you're affecting immediately by kind of your work and what you're working towards. So from this specifically, I did learn that I wanted to work for a for-profit organization, typically something bigger than the Borgen Project, and something that's for-profit. So that was my learning experience from that, and I kind of shared that with Ira, and we talked a little bit about kind of how I felt about it and how I thought it went. It was a really good conversation. Also, thinking back to what we did a few weeks ago in class, where we looked at the different salaries of some of the occupations that we're interested in, this also affected kind of like where I see myself after graduation. I kind of decided that I wanted to go back home to Seattle, not only because their marketing directors are getting paid about $30,000 to $40,000 more than the marketing directors here in Portland, but because I want to be close to family, and there's just a few things that I value and I want to continue to value, and would be easier to live that through if I were in Seattle. So we talked about Ira's move here to Portland and how kind of she adjusted to that culture. I got a look kind of into the typical day in the life that she has as an area director, but also as part of her job, she does marketing. So for her RAs, they actually have to submit their ads for their events to Ira, and Ira looks over their infographics looks over their ads, corrects for any grammar or spelling errors, and if she doesn't feel like the ad is as good as it can be, she'll send it back to them. And that's kind of how, on a daily basis, she uses marketing in her job as an area director. She also herself is in charge of a few events, so she is in charge of planning Halloween in the Halls. That's one of her events, which is a very extensive event that you really need to know all the nitty-gritty details, all the logistics, all of the moving parts, stuff like that. And she also is in charge of Academy Awards, which, similar to Halloween in the Halls, requires lots of planning, lots of communication, lots of moving parts, and just being very organized. And that was actually something we bonded over, the fact that personally as people, we are very organized, detail-oriented people, and how sometimes those characteristics benefit us the most in a marketing setting or a marketing position. They're typically the marketing people working in the marketing field have to be super detail-oriented. They need to know all the logistics, all the behind the scenes, and they have to be able to communicate that with everyone else involved, so everyone knows how an event is going to run, or they know how a brand is going to be launched, and other things along those lines. But we definitely did bond over the fact that we were very detail-oriented, very organized. We both really want to know like what's going on at what time. We want to be able to check in with our team and kind of help and support them if they need. After the informational interview that I had with Ira, I was much more validated in my decision to stick with marketing. Previously, in the past few weeks, it's been difficult for me to kind of decide if marketing is really the path for me, because I actually have not had a marketing class, and that's greatly affected kind of my view because I just don't have much exposure to the professors, specifically the marketing professors. But I've had exposure to like finance, accounting, and other forms of business, and I'm finding some of the things that I love to do are embedded, or the types of work that those kind of classes cater towards. So I was actually considering switching my major to accounting a few weeks ago, just because I really like the work that we're doing in class. I think it's really relevant. It makes sense to me. I think I'm pretty decent at it. And my professor was also encouraging me to maybe consider it, but I decided to hold off after talking with Ira and just kind of wait until I have my first marketing class to really solidify. After the interview, I definitely did feel more secure and more set in my decision to stay as a marketing major. But I also am just kind of looking forward to my first marketing class. I'm actually enrolled in my first marketing class next semester, and I'm really excited for that. It's by one of the professors that Ira and I talked about, one of her favorite professors. It's great to kind of get kind of like a head start on what to expect in the class, what's expected of me, how to kind of do well in that class, and how to get the professor on my side of the court. And down the road, maybe I can use them as a reference, or I can connect with them and get another internship or something like that. Ira and I did talk a lot about the professors on campus, specifically the business marketing professors, but we kind of did talk about the other professors that we had in common. And basically her main tip for me was to not focus on the grade I'm getting in that class, but more so focus on the experience I'm having in the class. She really wants me to make sure that I'm building a connection with these professors, because most of them, if they weren't teaching, they would actually be business managers, directors, CEOs, CFOs. So having these people on my side of the court would be really beneficial connection-wise. They'd be able to connect me to different internships, to different companies. They could connect me to different people that I might want to talk to about my career, about my path. And so Ira was kind of reinforcing that I should make sure they know who I am, make sure I know who they are, make sure we're comfortable together, make sure that it's a mutual and kind of respectful relationship between us, making sure that I am learning from them, constantly learning.
Life could be a dream if I could take you up in paradise.